Assalamu alaikum viewers and welcome back to Prime Live. Now I know everyone is super excited about this next interview. I know we've all missed our resident wellness expert, Mr. Ronald Abvajee. I know we've looked forward to hearing a lot of his insight as well as those valuable tips and tricks that he always has to share with us. And we are so happy to welcome him back. And in perfect New Year fashion, we are going to be talking about mindfulness and how to make lasting impact and change in our lives. Now, we know that with our conversations with Ronald, it's all about focusing on overall well-being, whether that be mental health or physical health. But we know that this new year can bring along a lot of new challenges, and we always need advice and tips on how to make sure we are reaching those goals and we are staying focused on achieving them. Assalamu alaikum, Ronald. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Prime Live.
Walaikum salam. It's fantastic to be with you. And we're still in the month of January, so it's still a win for the beginning of the year.
No, I couldn't agree more. I know our viewers at home missed you very, very much. I did as well. So I'm glad to be sitting down with you once again. Now, to kick off our conversation this evening, I want to talk about mindfulness and explain to our viewers at home why it is so important for us to be mindful. Like you said, we are still in the month of January. So we still have, a bit of time to set those goals for the rest of the year to make sure that we have a vision of where we want to be by the time it comes December 2025. Can you talk to us more about the importance of mindfulness and how we can better incorporate it into our day-to-day lives?
So as I define what mindfulness is for me and for the well-being industry, mindfulness is being present mentally, emotionally, and physically, and spiritually. So in every facet of your being present in the here and now without judgment. So as you and I are sitting conversing, we are fully present. And the fact that there are things happening around us and so forth, we're not feeling guilty or judging ourselves for being present. And that is what mindfulness is. And mindfulness is actually the antidote to the busyness of life. It's to the busyness that we create. It's to the hustle and the bustle that keeps us in this adrenaline rush and cortisol high that we just got so used to. It allows us to take not a step back. It allows us to stand still and immerse ourselves into what are we feeling, what are we thinking, what are we doing, so that we could actually pause to propel ourselves forward.
Now, as you're talking about that is absolutely something that I want to incorporate more in my year in 2025. Have a better balance and, of course, be more present in the moment. And I think with the pressures of society and being part of the social media generation, we forget to be mindful and present of where we are and appreciate where we are in our lives. We always have this constant need to look to the future, to look for what's next, instead of appreciating and being mindful of where we are right now. And we had a conversation yesterday that reminds me of something we're talking about today, is that sense of imposter syndrome, that constant pressure to be bigger and better instead of having gratitude and feeling appreciative of where you are right now.
Absolutely. Imposter syndrome, that impacts the majority of people in this world. And whether you choose to believe me or not, even the Elon Musk of the world, he as well deals with imposter syndrome, which is why perhaps he's so obstropulous in certain of his behaviors, actions, and words, because it's masking something else that is happening within. Now, imposter syndrome is linked to our inner worlds. It's a self-perception on either feeling not good enough, do we deserve this, or there's a FOMO element to it as well, which is why mindfulness becomes part of the weaponry to address it. Because if you're present within yourself now, without judgment, it gives you opportunity to reframe imposter syndrome to become an opportunity syndrome. And that is a flick of a switch. But do we choose to do that, or do we choose to be caught in this busyness that we surround ourselves with? Because being and dealing with the imposter syndrome is often a lot easier because it gives us an escape route, it gives us an out, it gives us an excuse to not deal with ourselves and to immerse and embrace the gratitude of the opportunities, the blessings, the barakah that we have around us.
Absolutely. I think that was so powerfully said. And I think all of us at some point or the other in our lifetime have fallen victim to that, feeling like nothing we've done or achieved is enough, feeling like we are never fulfilled or fully validated. But the importance of that, of course, is gratitude and being grateful for where you are in the present moment and making sure you acknowledge those little achievements that you've already made. And when it comes to the fact that we are still in January and there are a lot of people who are still thinking about how they want to achieve their goals for the next year. What are those goals and how they can set themselves up for success? Can you talk to us about the relationship between mindfulness and goal setting for 2025? What are some of the things that our viewers at home need to be mindful of when it comes to setting their goals for the next year?
For me, setting a goal is easy. Actioning the behavior to achieve the goal, now that's a different ball game. What I love about Mohammed and his journey, I heard in the intro when he spoke about fitness and moving the body. I can't wait to see Mohammed exercising. I'm so excited to see that, sweating and huffing and puffing. But the actions that you surround yourself with and the actions that you incorporate into your daily practices is what mindfulness will allow you to do. Because if you're mindful, you allocate time into your diary. If you're mindful, you will be aware of excuses that you create, because it's easier for an excuse than a behavior that is challenging you to do something different. But if we look at the foundational component of goal setting and mindfulness, it actually boils down to what is that inexpressible ka? What is the purpose, the meaning, the essence of why you want to achieve it? So let me share mine with you. My word of this year is untethered. So everything I do is about Ronald being untethered. What is untethered? Untethered is not being restrained by my past experiences, both good and bad, and my own personal doubt, to allow myself to fully embrace and immerse into opportunities, activities, and things that previously I wouldn't have. So how did my year start off this year? I decided to go to Dubai on New Year's Eve, 10 o'clock at night. I landed in Dubai on New Year's Day. And I went there to experience what will it be like if I lived here, and do I want to live here? So I didn't go as a tourist. I went to be untethered so that I could identify, is this a goal of mine, something I want to achieve or not? And I realized Dubai is not a place I want to live. South Africa is my home, but Dubai is a place that I can open up opportunities for. How do I now do that? So being untethered is my fundamental base, and mindfulness around that is my secret sauce to making it happen every day.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think that is a wonderful way to kind of set a mindset for the year. And I think our viewers at home can take away a lot from you sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your goal and your mindset for 2025. I think choosing a word and a mindset for how you want to be moving forward for 2025 is a really powerful tool in terms of how you approach different situations, how you approach your goals, and where you would like to see yourself at the end of the year as well. And being productive is something that we hold ourselves at a very high standard to. We always want to be productive, irrespective of what is going on in our lives. Productivity is the thing that drives us and makes us feel fulfilled and validated in so many ways. But mindfulness also has a relationship, and a close relationship at that, with productivity. Can you talk to us more about that?
Productivity is something that we are chasing in our lives in every facet, especially in our work lives. So let's look at it from a work-life perspective, because the theory is the more productive you are, the more output you generate that is impactful for yourself, your business, for your employer, or your team. And that's what the goal is. But when you are not mindful, the opposite of mindfulness is multitasking. Multitasking has been shown to lead to a 40% decrease in productivity. So if you just bring in mindfulness to focus on activities that are relevant for that period, whether it's 45 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, guess what happens? You skyrocket your productivity in every facet of your life. For example, if you are not mindful and you're having dinner with your family and everyone's on their phones, how many times do you go to a restaurant and see families on devices or phones? But if you choose to be fully present, the return on that investment of being mindful and present without judgment leads to smiles, connection, joy, and happiness within that family space. That's priceless productivity, right? Imagine in the workplace. So I'm currently exploring a book by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time, which is all about focus and removing distractions, but being structured in your approach on what is your superpower. And that is what mindfulness is.
I love that you've brought up that example because I think all of us have experienced a scenario or situation where we are trying to connect and be part of a moment, a feeling, an event, whatever it might be, special occasion, but we're all plugged into our devices trying to connect elsewhere instead of being present, immersed in that moment with your family, your friends, at whatever event or conference you are at. You are there for a purpose and you are there to be present and to be taking in all the connection, all the emotion, all the laughs, the joy that is coming from that moment. And by disconnecting yourself to reconnect with other people on the internet kind of takes away from that experience. And something interesting that I thought that you brought up is multitasking. It's something that a lot of people would put on their CV and proudly put there that I'm a great multitasker. But like you said, I love the perspective that you've brought there is that it can actually be the thing that takes away productivity from you, is not being able to focus on one thing at a time. But this whole idea of being able to work on multiple things at a time can actually take away from your productivity. So that's something we all need to look at, especially if you have it on your CV as you being a multitasker. But in closing, Ronald, can you talk to us about some of the biggest obstacles we are going to face as we now walk into 2025? Now with this new aspect to consider of being mindful, being present without judgment, and what are some of the obstacles we might face now switching our mindset to try and be more mindful, and how do we overcome them?
One of the biggest obstacles is one of the excuses that people give for anything and everything. I don't have enough time. And when you look at that as an excuse, you are giving so much power to something that you have a finite amount of. So rather than utilizing I don't have enough time because of the busyness around things that I've got to do, if you begin to just become aware of bringing in mindfulness on the current habits and the daily things that you do, what if after you brush your teeth, you become mindful for a minute? What happens is that you begin to micro stack mindfulness habits so that time is no longer an issue. And when you experience the benefit of after you brush your teeth, after you have your morning cup of tea or coffee, just spend a minute. Before you leave the house to get to work, you've already stacked in 2 to 3 minutes of mindfulness. And when you experience that benefit of just calming, relaxing, and if you have a device, you can look at your heart rate, it begins to go down. If you look at your productivity measurement, it begins to stack. And that is one of the excuses we need to absolutely eliminate. So don't feel guilty for looking out for you, because at this point, for mindfulness, being selfish is actually an investment into your well-being.
Thank you for sharing that, Ronald. It's amazing to see the constant interconnection between mental well-being and physical well-being and spiritual well-being. And it's amazing to see that just by taking that little bit of time to be mindful in those few minutes to start out can have such a great impact on those levels of stress, the levels of cortisol in your body. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. It was wonderful to have you back on Prime Live. And I think this was the perfect way for us to kick off our Wellness for 2025.
Absolute pleasure. Great to be with you and to see you again. And to the viewers, let's have fun this year.
Absolutely. Viewers at home, that was our resident wellness expert, Ronald Abvajee. And what a brilliant way to kick off Wellness with Ronald, then talking about mindfulness, setting intentions for 2025. And I hope that you took away motivation and inspiration from this conversation when it comes to setting yourself up for a mindful and productive 2025. Like Ronald shared his personal journey and his word that he has chosen for this year. Do share with us on our social media platforms, what is your word for 2025 and how will you be carrying this year forward, and how will you be using this word and integrating it into your life to be more productive and to be a better version of yourself? Do share with us on all our social media platforms. And as always, if there are any specific topics and conversations you want us to cover, please do also reach out to us on our social media platforms. But on that note, it is time for us to head over to an ad break and we'll come right back.